Good morning. This is Jeff from Arcanum Holistic Clinic, and I want to go through with you an article that just came across my newsfeed. This actually just came out on April 25th, just about 5 days ago, and it's from The Sun in the UK. And I'm going to do what I usually do. I'm going to pull out all the good points in this article, and there are actually quite a few. And I will also fill in any gaps or misconceptions and expand on what's missing from this article. So what do we have here? It's actually, this article comes from an interview. I'm just trying to find the name here, with this doctor, Dr. Larissa Corda, and they pull out 12 specific recommendations for fertility. The first one they start with is quit smoking and minimize booze. Okay, well, it's certainly a good general recommendation. I like that it says a specific point here: smoking can damage the lining of the womb, the eggs, and sperm. So that's a pretty clear reason. Of course, we would speak about it generally as far as all the toxins in tobacco and the non-toxic state, of course, that one is trying to achieve for fertility. And also, I'm going to expand a little bit on this point where she talks about the liver being preoccupied. They're talking about drinking alcohol here when it comes to processing toxins. And that's very true. That's a very true recommendation as far as a general kind of healthy state, a detox kind of state. But more specifically, and when we look at the health of the liver, it gets into something very critically important for fertility health, which is the function of the liver, or one of the functions anyways, has to do with creating something very important for health and fertility health particularly, which is cholesterol. I know normally cholesterol has been given a bad name, but that's actually quite a myth in health in general, and specifically in fertility health. And the production of cholesterol in the liver plays a critical function as far as dealing with any inflammatory processes in the body, in the way that the body is supposed to deal with them. And when people start either eating low-fat diet or even worse, using statin drugs or other ways to eliminate cholesterol from the system, you're actually interfering with a very primary important function in fertility health, and that's tied to the liver and tied to cholesterol formation is actually also the whole natural hormone production cycle. So this point doesn't go into all of that, but it is pointing in that direction, and that I will give it at least credit for that. The second point talks about sleeping more, and I'll just read this highlighted part here. This means clearing out the clutter, not using any electrical devices such as TVs and mobile phones before bedtime, and ensuring the room is dark enough to allow you to get the crucial 7 to 8 hours sleep a night. Yes, that's absolutely true. That's a very important point. And we do go into this actually in our book, The 8 Steps to Natural Fertility. If you're already in our natural fertility program, you'll find more about this in our chapter on sleep. We have a whole chapter about this. And if you're not yet, you can actually download our book for free. Just go to www.naturalfertilitybook.com, and you can get this and much more and begin our natural fertility protocol. Moving on to point 3, have more sex. I mean, it sounds a bit trite in the context of fertility, or a bit obvious. They even says so themselves, kind of obvious. But what I do, and actually one point I do want to highlight, they say the sperm quality may actually improve with more regular sex. And that's true. There's a truth to that. And in chapter 8 of our book, we go into much more detail about this. We actually lay out 2 different approaches to sex, whether one was within the fertility window of the month or outside of it. We basically present 2 approaches. The fertility approach to sex, or what we call reproductive sex, is the typical thing that people learned in grade 6 health class, as far as having sex and the ejaculation, the sperm meeting the egg, and all the mechanics of all of that. That's all very true. But in the non-fertile part of the month, we're actually highlighting what we call regenerative sex, another R word, and that gets much more into the bioenergetic, the emotional connection, the full sexual health of the couple is being enhanced with when that version of sex is being practiced. So again, that's in chapter 8 of our book. Moving on to point 4, they talk about removing bleaching materials, which is a very important point, like bleach products in the households, cleaning products, things like that. I would expand that really to all of the commercial cleaning products, as far as all of the known toxins and the ingredients in many of these products, which are very disruptive to the thyroid, very disruptive to hormone production, and therefore to fertility. So again, we talk about that in our book as well. And the strategy we suggest, as you're kind of learning, or you're finding your way into this world of which ingredients you do want in the house and which you don't, just to keep a running list in your wallet or in your purse of all the ingredients that you've learned, that you've researched, are not what you want in your fertility plan, and just make sure you're checking the ingredient list on any product that you're considering buying. And after a while, of course, you just get to know which products are okay and which ones you're regularly going to buy, which ones you're avoiding. So it just becomes a bit of a research project to get yourself up to speed on that. Point 5 talks about exercising more, and I do like this point where they say be careful not to overdo it. Too much exercise is just another stressor, and we definitely treat a lot of couples where there is over-exercise going on. Of course, there's the opposite with a lot of under-exercise going on, but they're both very similar problems when it comes to fertility. We go into exercise and we go into the specifics of both the necessary form of cardio that we recommend for fertility, as well as the necessary form of strength training. So again, you'll find that in our protocol, fully in our fertility book. Point 6, get rid of toxic people. So just like we talked about getting rid of physical toxins up above, this is another very good point as far as getting rid of mental and emotional toxins, which are equally damaging to one's fertility health. Point 7, I'd say this is one of the weakest points of writing in this article. It talks about setting up a daily ritual, then it gets on to talking about some particular examples. It talks about looking at the quality of water, and it's kind of hard to say what the real point of this number 7 is. I guess it sounds good to have a daily ritual. That sounds positive, but they're kind of not specific enough about this. I guess the way I would make this more specific and more helpful is to go through all of our natural fertility protocols and list them all out and make all of those your daily rituals. Then you're going to be making tangible progress, and you're going to have actually tangible things to measure yourself against what direction your fertility is going in. So anyways, I just chalk this up to maybe poor writing, or maybe there was a deadline, or who knows what it was, but this point didn't really fly. This is a very important point. Moving on to number 8, switch to a natural contraceptive, and it talks about the negative after effects of the pill, and particularly the difficulties of getting back into a natural state of fertility after the pill. They don't suggest any particular solution after the fact if someone has been on the pill. I mean, they do say maybe look for for more natural forms of contraception before the time of trying to conceive, which is a fair enough recommendation. But we can go even further with our protocol, and in fact this comes up so often. We do this a lot, where a couple is trying to conceive and having difficulty after they've come off the birth control pill. We'll actually go in with our specific homeopathic protocols and reverse the after effects of that, so that their system actually can get back to its natural state of fertility. So aside from going through our natural fertility protocol, if that applies to you, you would definitely want to get in touch with us and find out about how to include that birth control pill detox in your protocol. So moving on to point number 9, improve your gut health. Also very extremely important, of course, for someone's health in general, but natural fertility particularly. And the importance of gut health we actually talk about in our fertility book. And we go very specifically into the Weston A. Price Foundation, or their principles for diet, and within that is included things related directly to the gut health. So things like the traditionally fermented foods, like naturally fermented sauerkrauts, and miso, and some of the foods like this, which are actually highly beneficial for the gut health and therefore for the fertility health. Point number 10 is kind of a bit repeating what it said earlier. It says try to de-stress. Earlier it talked about detoxing from, or distancing yourself from toxic friends, toxic social situations. That's part of this more general point of mental and emotional health, which also can be stressful, can be toxic. And our whole fertility protocol includes not only the physical detox, but also the mental and emotional detox. So just like we talk about putting healthy food into our body, we likewise need to put healthy elements of mind and emotions into our body as well. That's equally an important part of our nutrition, or let's call it our emotional nutrition or mental nutrition, to coin a term. Point 11, try a multivitamin. That's also it's an okay suggestion. I find it a bit weak. We put so much emphasis in our natural fertility protocol on all the actual foods that you should be eating, getting your nutrition from food, getting your power nutrition, your super nutrition. There are certain roles for supplements and vitamins and so on to fill in gaps as necessary sometimes, but it's the general intention of a suggestion like this is fairly weak, because the attitude behind it, it's kind of using supplements as a so-called insurance policy, to kind of a broad spectrum of trying to blast all the nutrition that you're supposedly going to need. But it's an approach, or it's a mental attitude which actually derails people from the more core approach to really engaging with healthy forms of traditional nutrition and superfoods and all these things. So we do go through all the details in our book, and you can download that for free, www.naturalfertilitybook.com. And the final point, again, it's a good point. They talk about eating organic when possible. They talk about by eating organic, avoiding or eliminating the disruptions to the hormones, the other toxins and pesticides that you're going to get in non-organic food. So again, a good general recommendation. So overall, actually, a surprisingly fairly good article. It has a lot of good points in it. As you can see, of course, there are any number of gaps that I would fill in. But if you are not already in our natural fertility protocol, you can get started. You can download our book for free at naturalfertilitybook.com. Thank you so much for joining me this morning, and I'll see you next time.